Welcome to day 26 of FortiGate Firewall series. Guys, in today's class, we are going to understand address and address group on FortiGate Firewall. This is a very important topic on any firewall. On all next generation firewalls, you will find address object feature. And you can think of address like a tag, like a label that you can assign to a particular IP address, to a subnet, to a network, to a department, to a VLAN, right? So address or address group is some kind of tag, some kind of label used to identify IP address or range of IP address or subnet or network. But before talking about address and address group, let me show you how we were configuring policies in our previous classes. For an example, this is my lab and here is my FortiGate firewall. You can see port number 1 is connected with my internal router and port number 3 is connected with internet. Let's suppose I want my employees or LAN users should be able to access internet. How you will configure firewall policy for that? How you will define the rule? So we were configuring firewall policy here. Let me show you admin and admin. So most of the time I have configured policy by selecting source all, right? Like you go to policies and object and then firewall policy, and you can see I have only one policy, which is one is the default one. If I'm going to create new one, see it is asking first name. Let's say name is in to out or inside to outside, inside to outside. Here it is asking you to define the incoming interface. Okay, incoming interface is port 1, outgoing interface is port 3, and now you can see it is asking for source. So most of the time we have used source what? All. Destination what? All. But you know, like if you are using all always, that is going to be dangerous sometime, right? Most of the time selecting all is dangerous, and even this is unprofessional. It means what? If you have selected all here, that means source all, destination all. Maybe if traffic is going to internet, then destination is all, that is fine. But source all, it mean what? It mean you allow all IPs, all subnets, all networks, all users, even unknown source. Even in the future, if you are going to add any new subnet, new IP addresses, those will be also allowed to access internet. This means anyone from your network can access destination. It will be not always internet. Sometime it can be LAN to DMG, right? Let's suppose in my LAN there are multiple departments: HR department, sales departments, finance department, server room, IT department, right? So like you will have requirement in the production. HR department, or let's suppose IT department, or sales departments should only have, let's suppose, access to the Microsoft or to the particular cloud application, right? Not the entire internet. Or only HR users should be allowed to access internet, and sales users should not be allowed to access internet. Sales users should have some restriction. In that case you can't use all here. So instead of using all, here we can use address or address group. Here you can see if I am clicking on source, it is asking me to create address group here, right? From here you can create address group, user, internet service, and address is there, right? Some address group is there by default. These are address group. We were using all option, but apart from the all, see other options, right? For VPN, because this will be required not only in firewall policy, it is required in NAT, in VPN, right? And in many other scenario also you need address or address group. Okay, so today we are going to understand it in detail, right? Let me open my paint and let me tell you first what is address. What is an address in FortiGate firewall? On Palo Alto firewall also we had learned address object, right? Similarly here we are learning what what is an address in FortiGate. Then I will tell you about address group as well, what it is. Let me see my recording is on or not. Yeah, recording is on, great. So here I can say an address in the FortiGate or in the firewall, because it is this feature is available on all next generation firewall, is a label, or you can say tag you give to an IP, particular IP or subnet or range of IP. Like in case of DHCP, I'm going to explain these all terms in detail, don't worry. Or fully qualified domain name, FQDN, right, which is nothing but domain. Yes, right. Even with the help of address feature, you can allow traffic from a particular country. Let's suppose traffic from India should be allowed based on geography, and traffic from Russia should be blocked, right? So this is possible with the help of address and address group only. Okay, so what I told you, what is address in FortiGate firewall? An address in firewall is a label you give to an IP, subnet, or range of IP address or fully qualified domain name. It tells the firewall which device, or I can say which network you are talking about. It tells the firewall which device or which network you are talking about. For an example, imagine imagine your company building has many rooms, multiple rooms. Let's say room 101, which is HR room, room 202 for an example, finance room 303 is, let's say, server room. So in the building there are multiple rooms like this, these are the room. So instead of saying allow entry to a particular room or particular subnet, let's suppose allow entry to 192.168.10.35, you tell firewall that HR department should be allowed. So whatever IP addresses or subnet belongs to HR, or whatever members are there inside this room, right, policy or rule will be applicable for those all person, right? So this way we can simplify our rules as well, right? Here I can define the subnet for all the departments. Let's suppose for HR, my subnet is, for HR subnet is 1 minute 192.168.10.0/24, and finance subnet is 192.168.20.0/24, and server subnet equals 10.10.10.0/24 for an example. Now firewall knows who is who, right? Now based on this you can define the policy. If it is not clear to you, don't worry, just wait for some time, everything will get clear to you. I am going to explain everything in detail. Understand first one more thing, why it is required, then automatically you will understand it. let me talk about why first, right? And this is my teaching only. First I should talk about why, then I should come on what. Okay, so why do we need addresses? Addresses, when, why we should not select all? Okay, so what I told you, selecting all can be dangerous, right? It is unprofessional. If you are using all, not use all. If you are using all, it means all are allow, all the IP addresses, all the subnets, all the networks, all users, even unknown source, right? So this means anyone from any network can access destination, can access destination. That kills security. Then why we are using firewall, right? We are using firewall for the security reason only, so that a specific user, a specific department, a specific VLAN, a specific subnet, a specific network, or a specific IP address or range of IP address can access the destination, right? So with the help of address group, you can tell to your firewall that user from HR to access the internet, right? Now you can see, if I am going to say all, source all, it means all the rooms or all these user from all these subnet can access internet. But with the help of address group, I can say user from HR to access internet. I can configure this rule, right, very easily. Even if you want Praful, but if I have another requirement, everyone, these all should be, user from these all subnet should be allowed to access internet. And in that case, if I will use address, then I have to configure three rules, right? First I will allow user from HR to internet, then I will allow user from finance to internet, then server to internet. No, server should not access internet, right? And for these two, even you can use address group. Address group is like a folder which can contain multiple addresses, right? So by combining these two addresses, I can create a address group, and then I can say user from this address group to access internet, like this. So simple, right? So address or address group is making your firewall more smarter and safe. But if you use all to internet, then you know server can also access internet, guest can also access internet, IoT devices can also access internet, CCTV camera can also access internet, right? Everyone will get internet access unless you will not blocked separately, right? A particular subnet separately. That's why we uses addresses to create perfect rules on FortiGate firewall, to create perfect firewall rules. Here my rules is going to be like this: HR user, see, let me write some rules here, it will help you to understand. HR users internet allow. HR user is allowed to access internet. How you will identify the HR user, right? Let's suppose in my network 1000 employees are there, out of 1050 are HR, right? So for HR I already have addresses, right? Address object, there I will define the address subnet of HR. Getting my point? Then I can say finance user, users should access servers, not internet. Server and then allow. Rule number, next rule can be Wi-Fi or guest Wi-Fi to server deny action deny. So how easily you can control the firewall policies? By using addresses, you makes firewall smarter and keep our network safe, right? And now we have multiple types of addresses, right? Let's understand that. After then I will come on configuration part. I will show you the configuration as well. Configuration is going to be very simple. See here, on my FortiGate firewall, admin and password. On my FortiGate firewall, if I will take you to the address, go to network, not network, policy and object, and here you can see addresses. Right now I have not created any addresses. These are the default one available on my FortiGate firewall. If I will try to delete someone, you can see delete option is not highlighted. You can't delete, right? So IP range and subnet is one type of address. Fully qualified domain name, another type of sub addresses. Address group, as I told you, it is like a folder which can contain which can contain multiple addresses, right? Address objects. Done. So here I don't have any address right now. You can create through CLI as well as through GUI. Let me show you first through CLI how you can create address. Admin and admin. Here you will run some command. First of all, run command config firewall, not filter, config firewall, and after that address. Right now I am in firewall address mode, and here if you will run show command, you can find all the default one, right? Whatever you have seen here on the GUI, you can find those all addresses here. Here you can see. Let me close it. Here you can see. And if you want to create any new address here, just edit, then define the name. Let's suppose name is server subnet, right? So you can see new entry is created, and here I can set the subnet, set subnet, and let's suppose 192.168.50.0/24. This way, that's it. And now if I will take you to the GUI, and if I will refresh my page, then you can see here one address is created here with name server subnet, and you can see the subnet over here, right? Interface is not there. I will talk about the interface, address type in detail, but this is so easy, right, to create the address. And now I can configure policy, right? NAT policy, firewall policy, VPN policy based on this address. This is the benefit. Let me talk about type of address first, then I will show you the configuration again. Types of address object. Type of address object. So first one is, here you can see in the GUI as well. Let me see once, because create address. Right now I'm not creating address group. Here you can define the color as well, color, name, and then type. If you will click on type, then you can see subnet, IP range, fully qualified domain name, geography, dynamic, and device MAC. You must have heard about MAC based rule on firewall, FortiGate firewall, right? So that will be done with the help of device MAC address. Okay, so let me tell you about these all, then I will show you the configuration. So first one was IP, or you can say subnet, right? So IP and subnet is like simple network, a network using subnet mask, a subnet using subnet mask. For an example, 192.168.10.0/24, it can be a department, a VLAN, right, like this. Our second type of address is IP range. IP range, remember the DHCP, right? When my client machines are getting IP address from the DHCP, and in the DHCP you have defined a range of IP address, right? So similarly, for that range of IP address, you can create address object. You can create address object, like for an example, guest Wi-Fi range is 192.168.100.50 to 192.168.100.100.150. Like this is a range of IP range, right? So this way you can create address with IP range, and this will be used when users get IP from DHCP, but only inside a specific range, right? When you want to restrict, only part of a subnet should have access to destination or should not have access to destination, any rule, any action, right? When you want to match a range of IP address, right? Sometime in the production we use it for temporary users, right? For contractors, right? For guest Wi-Fi network, because guest Wi-Fi network gives IP only in a small pool, right? In a range. Okay, then third one is FQDN, fully qualified domain name. Fully qualified domain name address, or you can say domain based address object. Domain based address object. For an example, a domain name like google.com, google.com, or you have some application on the cloud like Microsoft 365.com, right? And based on this domain, like you want firewall should resolve this domain name into the IP address using DNS, and after that it should check the rule, right? Whatever rules you have defined. Example, updates.microsoft.com, zoom.us, right? github.com. So when you will use fully qualified domain address object in case of cloud website, right, where IP addresses keep changing, IP address is not stable, right? In that case, based on domain you will create address object, right? For, let me write here, for cloud website with changing IPs, right? In case of Office 65, right? In case of Zoom, AWS, Google Cloud, right? External partner domains, right? So you want, for an example, let me give you one more example here. Let's suppose you want IT department to access GitHub, but not full internet, right? Should only have the access to GitHub, not the full internet access, right? So in this case, destination IP keep changing. Destination IP can be like, whenever destination IP keep changing, at that time you can use fully qualified domain name, right? Because you want firewall to auto update them, right? To auto resolve domain into IP address is not fixed, right? And then it should check the rules, right? So at that time you will use this option, fully qualified. This one is the third type of address on FortiGate Firewall. Some more addresses was there. Let me see once again. Admin admin. Okay, dynamic. Let me talk about dynamic, then I will talk about geography. Dynamic option. Dynamic address. It is tag based, right? I will give you the example, best example. Tag based address object. Tag based or fabric integration. Integration address object. Let's suppose an address that automatically updates using tags or information from FortiGate client, EMS, fabric, all computer, not all computer, let's suppose all laptop with HR tag, right? Let's suppose one employee is working in office, right? So maybe their IP address is different, and same user is working from their home as well. So when they will connect their laptop to their home network, that time their IP address will get changed. But the employee belongs to HR department, right? So company is going to configure tag, right, to identify the laptop, that laptop belongs to HR department only. So based on tag you can configure address object. Getting my point? For zero trust user, for zero trust users, endpoint tagging, you must have heard about endpoint tagging if you are a network engineer or if you are any IT professional engineer, right? In case of automatic grouping devices, when IP change frequently, in case of SD-WAN also you will use dynamic address. Okay, so I have given you one example, like laptop moves from office to home, IP address changes, but tag remains same. So firewall still identify the laptop correctly, that yes, this laptop belongs to HR department. Based on that it will take action, right? Whatever rule you have configured, right? Because device IP can change, but identity stay the same, right? Identity will be always same. This one is the fourth type of address object, and fifth one can be MAC address, like when you want to identify devices based on MAC address, like layer 2 identification, layer 2 identification, right? Like firewall like MAC based firewall rules, right? When you want to configure MAC based firewall rules, right? For an example, I have a printer in my network and the printer MAC address is A4 5E anything AB, right? So let's suppose I have a printer with this MAC address, right? So you want firewall to identify the printer with the help of MAC address, identify device before it get IP address, before it get IP address. It is very useful in case of IoT devices, in case of printers, in case of CCTV, in case of APs, access point, right? This is also called as DHCP based filtering, DHCP based filtering, right? So here you can block a specific device by MAC address only. You don't need IP address. Based on MAC address we can block that. And the last one, this one is the fifth one, and the last one is sixth one, which is geo, geographical address, or in short you can say geo IP, right? An entire country or region based address, Let me change it. In short, you can say geo IP. Okay, so let's suppose you have some requirement: block all traffic from Russia and allow all traffic from India, right? Block North Korea. So here on FortiGate Firewall, even you can see it is getting log out again and again. Admin. If I will change the address type here, then option will get changed, right? Here if I am going to select geography, then here you can see all the countries, right? So this is region based address object, right? Country based address object. Some more types of address object is there, but that is not available on our FortiGate firewall. Now I want to show you one a small simple lab. For an example, see, in my LAN, this is my LAN subnet 10.1.1.0/24. I am going to change it. Let's suppose two subnets are there in my LAN: 10.1.1.0 and 10.1.2.0/24. Here on the router, I can do one thing. I can create SBI. Let me access router and let me change the configuration very quickly. Enable so run interface G0/1. So this interface is using this IP address, and I think DHCP is also running. So run section DHCP. 1 minute. So yes, DHCP is also running. We can enable DHCP pool for another subnet as well. Go to interface G0/1. I'm saying no IP address, and here I am going to create two sub interface G0/1 dot, let's say 10, right? And what we can say, encapsulation dot 1q for VLAN 10, and IP address 10.1.1.100 255.255.255.0. Exit interface G0/1.20 encapsulation.1q for VLAN 20, and IP address 10.1.2.100 and 255.255.255.0. Okay, now let's suppose these are two department and I want to configure internet access. Let's say this one, first one is HR and second one is the server, right? So HR should be allowed to access internet. So very easily you can configure on FortiGate Firewall. Go to FortiGate Firewall, here define the name. First of all, create address object. Here in the address object I am going to say HR subnet. And here you can also define the color HR subnet. Here for the identification you can define the color as well. Let me use red color for HR. Node geography, I am going to select subnet. Here if you will select subnet, then you have to define subnet ID and subnet mask. If you will select IP range, then you need to define the range of IP address. If you will select fully qualified domain name, you have to define domain name here, youtube.com, facebook.com, like that. In case of geography, you have to define the country. In case of dynamic, I already told you. In case of MAC address, you have to define the MAC address. So I want to create a simple address group for now. So let me use subnet here, and subnet ID is 10.1.1.0. Subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. If you want, you can enable interface as well, like it will automatically detect while configuring a static route. Also you have seen that, right? If this address object is reachable from any particular interface from port number 1, then you can define the port as well, port 1. Otherwise you can leave it as well on default. Even you can enable a static route configuration. When you will configure a static route, at that time also this address object will appear there if you will enable this option, right? So for this address object you can configure a static routing, right? Let me keep it off for now and say okay, in another video we can discover that. Okay, now you can see my uh, address object is created. Now I can create firewall policy very easily. If in I am going to say all in firewall policy, that means both the subnet users can access internet, but here I don't want that. Let me say HR to internet, to internet access, right? Incoming interface port 1, outgoing interface port number 3, right? Source address, I will match source from the HR subnet. Here you can see the color, name, and you can see the subnet as well here, 10.1.1.0/24. interface is port number 1. So let me select it. And destination, for internet destination is not known. Even if your destination is known, or if you want to allow a particular domain, you can define that, right? Let's suppose HR user should be only allowed to access YouTube, so you can allow only YouTube here. For now I'm going to say destination any, and service for an example for now all. Otherwise again you can control TCP, UDP. Day by day you will be learning these all many things, right? And here I am going to say okay. If you want to configure central net, then just disable it and enable central net. Otherwise you can keep this net on and say okay, right? Policy is created. In the policy I can also enable the log for all the session. Okay, and now go to router number 1 and ping internet, ping 8.8.8.8 and source G0/0.0/1 dot, it was what, I think 10. Check ping is working or not. Ping should work here. What happened? Let me see. Enable, and let me debug IP ICMP. Go to router number 1 and show IP interface brief once. So on G0/1, this is my IP address. Let me ping. Okay, I got the issue why it is, see, request is going, request is reaching or not. I think FortiGate Firewall don't have reverse path. Here I have to configure a static routing. Go to network, then static route. Default route is already there towards internet. So let me do one thing. From FortiGate Firewall I can first try to ping internet, admin execute ping 8.8.8.8, and ping is working. Routers will be also able to ping, don't worry. Let me configure the route. 10.1.0.0, subnet mask is 255.255.0.0. For both LAN subnet I am configuring route. Next hop IP address 192.168.10.1. Here I am running 10.1. Okay, interface port 1 and leave everything on default, say okay. Okay, and from the FortiGate Firewall, if you are going to ping, execute ping 10.1.1.100, then ping should work. Yeah, ping is working. And now go to router, and from the router you can try to ping internet now. See, internet is working. From which source? Internet is working from the source of LAN subnet 1, right? From the HR subnet. From this subnet you can't access internet. Go to router number 1, ping, and change the source G0/1.20. See, this ping is not working, right? It will not work. Now not everyone can access internet. We have changed that. So in the dashboard, if you will check FortiView session, then here you can see the session as well, right? And in the logs firewall traffic. Here also you can see the logs accepted, right? 10.1.1.100 is allowed to access internet, but any user from 10.1.2.0/24 is not allowed to access internet. So this is basic configuration of address, right? Address object you can discover if you have FortiGate firewall in your EVNG. And if you are watching all my video in sequence, that means you are already performing lab. Okay, so guys, that's all for today. If this video was helpful for you, please hit on like button. If you are new on the channel, if you have not subscribed this channel till now, then please subscribe this channel. We'll meet soon in next video. Till then, stay safe. Bye bye. That's all for today.